But now let's return to Oz, which we glimpsed at the beginning of the programme. What I imagine most people know about Oz is that Judy Garland wanted fervently to get out of there and back to Kansas and kept harking on wistfully about some place over the rainbow. It's only a matter of luck that anybody remembers the last bit, actually, because MGM wanted to cut that song out of the film on the grounds that it wasn't up to much and it held up the action. So much for the acumen of MGM. Oz, however, has had a literary life of its own since 1900, when Frank L. Baum wrote the first of his 14 books about the place. Well, now Disney have acquired the rights to 13 of these, so in the fullness of time, I suppose we can look forward, or not, as the case may be, to watching Return to Oz Part 13. But that, of course, would depend on the screening of the first of the Disney epics, the unnumbered Return to Oz, which comes to us at a cost of $25 million next month. The film was shot here in England, Oz itself wholly created inside the studios at Elstree, and Kansas rebuilt on an army firing range on Salisbury Plain. No Judy Garland this time, no Ray Bolger either, or Jack Haley. What we have instead are characters based firmly on the original illustrations.
It's a film that is based on books written by L. Frank Baum. It tells the story of how Dorothy goes back to Oz for the second time and what she encounters there and a whole different set of adventures. I like to think of it, though, as a sequel, really, a sequel to One Side, in a sense. It's not a musical. It has a different set of characters in it. It is using film techniques that have been developed over the last 45 years since that the previous Judy Garland film was made.
As Baum created it, his 1900s view of fantasy and the future, and also trying to create the characters as they were drawn by Denslow and John Neal, so that rather than put people in suits, create the creatures in a way that makes them realistic fantasy creatures. The creatures in Oz, we've decided, had to be created in a similar way to the way we did the creatures in The Dark Crystal, or the way Yoda was done in The Empire Strikes Back. A way of creating or bringing to life a personality of a character by using some puppetry techniques and some radio control and mechanical linkage techniques and everything that we've learned down through the last 20 years about movie making to be able to bring a personality to life that just doesn't exist in reality.
Does it feel very heavy on you?
Most of the characters are created by using a combination of actors and technology. The lion's head is mechanized while the actor performs its body movements. The Gump, however, is cable controlled and requires a host of operators.
There's a jaw, which has got a side-to-side.
The Gump is a fully mechanical character. It's all cable operated. And you've got about 20 feet of cable on the Gump. And the performers are out of sight behind scenery or just off the camera. The Tic-Toc is radio controlled. His head is all radio controlled with a performer inside. It's probably the most difficult one to perform in because you're doubled up with your head between your legs.
The characters are portrayed by both humans and puppets, and so the actors needed months of rehearsal to reproduce the puppets' movements. Pons Maar was in charge of this.
With the human Jack, he would be stiff like this. He would hold himself upright like that. Whereas the puppet didn't have all this to hold himself up, and it was more like this. He would kind of move like that. He would turn his head, and his whole torso would turn. And of course, his hands would have to be up because the control levers were coming from his arm here. So I had to take Stuart and get him out of being really rigid to being able to be loose and give a little pop to his knee. The Wheelers, we started out on a program of training, just in a workout room training, and then training on the wheels. You know, half each day, not all day, of course, because you can't work that much. Which then evolved into the majority of us just working on the wheels every day. Because it's quite a difficult thing to get on those wheels, be comfortable, use the right muscles, which are all the wrong muscles for being upright. Being on the wheels didn't relate to anything. We couldn't find anything that it related to.
Dorothy is played by Fairuza Balk, who was chosen in true Hollywood tradition from thousands of young hopefuls. Gamely, she agreed to do all her own stunts.
Well, when we went through the powder gate, I got pretty scared because it's like
like when you're on a roller coaster and you're riding up and up and up, and all of a sudden you go down, and it's like that when we're going and going and going, then whack, we go through the gate, the balcony, then whoosh, we fly off. Fly, fly! I can't get out.
Let's get the safety harness off. Just your little self up the owner.
I hope we're not doing that again, are we?
No, baby.
Not altogether unlike a baby Judy Garland is she, Miss Balk. Well, the name Oz, as a matter of minor interest, was inspired by the letters O to Z on the front of a filing cabinet. Bet you didn't know that.